When my mother-in-law, Judith, passed away, our family grieved in different ways. She wasn't just my husband's mother. She had been my confidant, my second mother, and at times my fiercest defender. Judith had a warmth about her that made everyone feel seen, yet she was also discerning. She didn't lavish affection lightly. If she gave you her heart, it was because you had earned it. The weeks after her funeral were hazy, but one moment remains sharp in my memory: the reading of her will. Most of her estate was straightforward. Her savings were divided evenly among her children, and her jewelry was allocated to her daughters. But when her lawyer opened a box and pulled out a coat, I felt my breath hitch. T was a white sable mink coat, classic in style, with a silk lining embroidered with her initials. Judith had purchased it in her 30s when she was at the height of her career. I had admired it countless times over the years, running my hands over the soft fur when she allowed me to try it on. She used to joke, "One day, this will be yours." You appreciate beauty without arrogance. True to her word, she left the coat with me. Some might scoff at a coat being valued at $20,000, but Judith had been meticulous with her possessions. The coat was pristine, appraised just months before her passing. To me, though its worth wasn't in dollars, it was in the love behind the gesture. I wore it sparingly. The first time was at her memorial reception, a way of carrying her with me. Later, on particularly cold evenings, I draped it over my shoulders when I sat on the porch with a glass of wine, imagining her sitting beside me. My husband Charles understood. He never questioned why I kept it in a protective garment bag, hung in a cedar closet away from the rest of my coats. "It's more than clothing," he said once, kissing my forehead. "It's her hug when you need it." Unfortunately, not everyone in the family saw it that way. Enter my niece, Ava. She was 19, fiery, and perpetually at odds with the world. Ava was the daughter of my sister-in-law, Lydia, who had always harbored a strange competitiveness toward me. Where Judith and I had formed a close bond, Lydia often felt she was left standing in the shadows. Ava had grown up hearing her mother's resentment and seemed to inherit it wholesale. At first, I brushed off Ava's coldness. She was young, after all. But over the years, her disdain sharpened. Little jabs at family dinners, rolling her eyes when I spoke, mocking my perfect daughter-in-law act. I let most of it slide, but the coat became her obsession. The first time she saw me wearing it, her eyes narrowed. "So you got the famous mink," she said, her voice dripping with something between envy and accusation. "It was your grandmother's wish," I explained gently. "She wanted me to have it." Ava scoffed. "She should have left it to the family. Not an in-law." I bit my tongue. After all, I was family, whether she liked it or not. The coat became a sore subject. Whenever I wore it, Ava would make a snide comment. "Do you really need to flaunt that thing?" Or, "Bet you like showing off that you're the favorite." I'd respond with politeness, though inside, her bitterness stung. The real breaking point came one December evening at Lydia's house. It was our first Christmas without Judith, and emotions ran high. I decided to wear the coat, thinking it would be a quiet tribute to the woman we all missed. The moment I walked in, Ava's eyes locked on it like a predator spotting prey. "You had to wear that?" she muttered loud enough for half the room to hear. I ignored her, greeting other family members, focusing on the warmth of being together. But Ava didn't let it go. All evening, she lingered near me, her gaze glued to the coat. At one point, she cornered me in the hallway. "You think you deserve that?" she hissed. "That coat should be mine. Grandma would have wanted it to stay with blood family." I stayed calm. "Ava, I understand you're upset, but your grandmother made her wishes clear. This coat was her gift to me." Her lips curled. "You're not special. You just sucked up to her." Before I could respond, Lydia called her into the kitchen, breaking the tension. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Later that night, as everyone gathered around the tree to exchange gifts, I draped the coat over a chair in the living room. I stepped into the kitchen to help Charles carry in dessert. We weren't gone more than 5 minutes. When we returned, gasps filled the room. My heart plummeted as I saw my coat, my precious, irreplaceable coat, lying in a puddle of red wine. The glass bottle had shattered beside it, soaking the fur. Ava stood nearby, her face flushed, her hand still gripping the neck of the broken bottle. I tripped, she said quickly, though her eyes gleamed with something far darker than accident. I rushed forward, lifting the coat. The stain spread like a wound across the sable, the sharp scent of wine making me gag. My hand shook as I whispered, "What have you done?" Charles was by my side in an instant, fury etched across his face. "Ava, was this intentional?" I said I tripped, she snapped, but her smirk betrayed her. The room fell silent. No one believed her, though Lydia rushed to her defense. It was an accident. She didn't mean to. But the damage was done. I spent days with professional cleaners, specialists who shook their heads sadly. The fur was ruined. The stain had seeped too deeply. The integrity of the coat was destroyed. $20,000 of craftsmanship and decades of care obliterated in seconds. I cried that night, not just for the coat, but for Judith's memory. It felt like Ava had spit on her gift, her love. Charles wanted to cut ties immediately. "She'll never set foot in our home again," he raged. "We'll make Lydia pay for the damages." But I thought long and hard. Money could never replace the coat. What mattered was accountability. Ava had to face the consequences, not just hide behind her mother's excuses. So I called her lawyer. With his help, we filed a civil claim against Ava for destruction of property. Because she was 19, she was legally responsible for her actions. The appraisal documents, the cleaning attempts, and the witnesses all made the case strong. When the court summons arrived, Lydia was livid. She called me screaming, accusing me of ruining her daughter's life. "You're really dragging your own niece to court over a coat? You're heartless." I stayed calm. "Lydia, your daughter intentionally destroyed something invaluable to me. Actions have consequences." Ava showed up in court looking smug at first, flanked by Lydia. But as the evidence was presented, the appraisal, the testimonies from family members who'd seen her pour the wine, the cleaner's statements, her confidence crumbled. The judge was unsparing. "This was not an accident," he said sternly. "This was malicious destruction of property. You will compensate the plaintiff for the appraised value, plus legal fees." When the gavel came down, Ava's face went pale. $20,000 wasn't pocket change. For a 19-year-old with no steady job, it was crushing. Lydia burst into tears, pleading with the judge, but his decision stood. In the months that followed, Ava had to sell her car, withdraw from college, and take on multiple jobs to begin paying the judgment. Word spread quickly through the family. Some said I was cruel. Others quietly told me I had done the right thing, that for once, Ava had been forced to take responsibility. As for me, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt resolved. Judith had always believed in accountability. "Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness," she used to say. By holding Ava accountable, I honored that belief. The coat may have been ruined, but in its destruction, something else was restored. The reminder that love and respect must go both ways, and that entitlement has no place in a family. Months later, Ava showed up at my door. She looked thinner, worn down, her eyes tired. For the first time, she didn't glare at me with defiance. She spoke softly. "I came to apologize. I hated how Grandma loved you. I thought if I ruined the coat, it would hurt you like I was hurting. But it didn't fix anything. It just made everything worse." I studied her for a long moment. I saw the girl beneath the anger, the grief she hadn't processed, the jealousy that had eaten her alive. Finally, I nodded. Apology accepted. But Ava, healing doesn't come from destroying. It comes from building. I hope you learned that. She nodded, tears spilling over. "I'm trying." She left soon after. I don't know if she'll ever fully change, but at least she has taken the first step. As for me, I still keep the ruined coat, sealed in a preservation box. Not as a garment, but as a reminder. It represents love, loss, betrayal, and justice. Judith's gift to me wasn't just the coat. It was the courage to stand firm when wronged, and the strength to uphold the values she lived by. And in that way, she still wraps me in her embrace every day.